Euphoria is trash. It's one of the worst shows I've ever seen, and I don't know why people recommended me this shit. I admit I thought about watching Euphoria way before it became a popular series when it was first released, because most of the good shows that I've watched for me have been on HBO. The Wire, Game of Thrones, The Sopranos, Boardwalk Empire, 6 Feet Under, Oz. So a lot of shows that I've enjoyed have been on HBO. True Blood is one of those shows that I enjoyed for like a few seasons, but then it completely fell downhill. And I actually read a lot of lists saying that Euphoria was way better than True Blood. All right, let me try this show out. Not to mention all the recommendations I was getting from everybody saying, "Oh my gosh, this show is so amazing. This show is so amazing. It's the best thing I've ever seen. It's so realistic."
Bullshit.
So I finally decided to give it a try, and this might be the worst show I have ever seen.
Shameful shit.
See, I thought True Blood was weird the way it just over-sexualized the fuck out of vampires, and it just felt like if it had like one or two more sex scenes, it might as well just be considered pornography. Euphoria in some ways is similar to True Blood, but it's more similar to shows like Riverdale and The Vampire Diaries. It's about the overly dramatic lives of teenagers, right? Kind of the same thing with Euphoria, except it's about over-sexualized teenagers.
What the fuck is this?
And beyond the sex and the drugs and more sex and more drugs, there isn't really much of a story being told here. Instead, in between all of that, you just get the biggest collection of dumbasses I've ever seen on a television series. The characters feel very bland and uninteresting, but they do check off a few stereotypes, like the 6'5" jock who's handsome, can get any girl he wants, but is a very big asshole. You got the popular girl who's very pretty, but she sounds like she's missing a few brain cells. You got the pretty girl who looks all innocent, but sleeps with every guy in school and calls it love. You got the drug addict. You got the guy who wants to be better than his friends, who's very smart, but is such a fucking simp. This incredible show that everybody's been talking about failed to make me care for any of the characters. It was just really shitty storytelling because it would just waste time breaking the fourth wall and having scenes that just looked like music videos and just outright showing me everything and telling me everything rather than having me piece together everything little by little through very brilliant dialogue and just really good storytelling. It doesn't do any of that. Nah, this show takes a different approach. The beginning of most of the episodes offers like a montage that focuses on one specific character, and that essentially acts like the cliff notes to that character's story. So rather than letting it all divulge over time and giving us very enthralling and compelling story arcs for each individual character, it, like I said, just tells you and shows you everything. And that's really stupid because it takes away from the experience of me learning about the character and what they like, what they don't, what they fear, what they're passionate about. It's like, if you're meeting someone for the first time, like, do you really want a tablet in front of you with cliff notes like, oh, well, this person likes ballet, they like basketball, they spend a lot of time at home doing that. Yeah, I don't want to meet them. Like, you don't do that. Like, every time you meet someone, you learn about who they are through questions, hanging out. Maybe you're in class together. Maybe you play the same sports. Maybe you like the same music. Like, that's all part of learning. That's all part of growing. That's all part of life. So when you tell me all about someone's life like that in a little montage, it makes me not give a fuck about that character. Because then the rest of the show, all you do is sex, drugs, and that's it.
Do you know how stupid this is?
And then for the rest of the show, you just get an unrealistic view of what a teenager's life is like. Now, I'm not saying that no teenager's life is like that, but what about college? What about trying to figure out what schools you'll get into and trying to pursue your passion, trying to figure out where you want to be in life, trying to get a job, keeping a job, trying to learn how to drive, trying to live up to your parents' expectations. Like, all these things are things that you don't really get to experience while watching Euphoria. But what you do get to experience is more alcohol, more sex, more drugs, recycle and repeat, and that's all this show does. And when the show does attempt to give depth to this weak ass story, it doesn't really feel significant because I don't really care about the characters. So let's talk about the characters. You got Rue, the drug addict who lost her father to cancer, and I don't know if she has like one or like various mental illnesses, but she gets hooked on drugs as a means of dealing and coping with that. But again, those are just the cliff notes. She's supposedly the main character played by Zendaya, which, I mean, I guess I can agree with, but all the characters kind of blend in together, but whatever. The entire show, she spends her time doing drugs, trying to get off drugs, becoming suicidal, finding reasons to not be on drugs, getting back on drugs, trying to get off drugs again, talking to her friend Jules, having really uninteresting conversations, being in love with her, but not really, being suicidal, but not really, being depressed, but not really, getting back on drugs, getting off, and it's just like a rinse and repeat kind of cycle. It does not change. The most interesting thing about Jules is that she's a transgender played by an actual transgender, and I thought that was pretty cool. And back when I was in high school, transgender awareness wasn't really a thing, or at least it wasn't as big of a thing as it is today. So I thought the show had a really good opportunity to give us like some perspective and insight on what a teenager transgender life is like. But instead, all you really get are the cliff notes of Jules' background, and throughout the entire story, like outside the cliff notes, all you get is her talking to Rue, drinking, talking to Rue, claiming they're in love with each other. That's pretty much it. So I viewed that as a wasted opportunity. But anyway, moving on. Nate and Maddie. Nate is on the football team and Maddie's a cheerleader. Cliche, right?
Oh, predictable.
Maddie and Nate have this toxic on and off relationship where she does something to piss him off, and then he gets pissed off, you're dead to me, blah blah blah, and then she gets really angry and upset. She wants to make him jealous, so she decides, hey, I'm gonna have sex with like this guy over here, and then he gets jealous, they get back together, and then they break up again, and then she contemplates, hey, should I get back together with Nate? It's a mistake, he's abusive, I hate him. They get back together, they do it all over again. Like it's just it's a constant thing with all these characters where they just keep repeating the same thing over and over and over. But it does not end there. Oh no. Nate is also a vigilante on behalf of his father, who is a closeted, I guess he's gay, bisexual, or like whatever sexual orientation you want to tag on him is fine. The point is he lives a double life, and Nate spends his time blackmailing the people that his father has had sex with as a means of protecting his father and the family business. But there's more. At the start of the show, Maddie and Nate are broken up and she wants to get back at him, so she decides to dance with a guy who like, it gets Nate jealous, and then he decides to stalk this guy and break into his home. And then Nate, because he's such a fucking pussy, he manipulates him, saying if he does not sit there and take a beating, he's gonna tell the cops, I believe him, I'm not mistaken, I might get this wrong, but he's gonna tell the cops that he raped Maddie. And he doesn't want to go to prison for rape, so rather than do that, he sits there and just takes a beating. And like, Nate's actions wouldn't bother me too much if it actually built towards something like later on, but instead it just goes right back to Maddie and Nate being together and then breaking up and then getting back together and then breaking up. Like, it's just a non-ending cycle. So like, all these moments that Nate has kind of feel out of place. And then you got Fesco, who to me is like the most real guy on the show, and if I remember correctly, he's a drug dealer because he kind of got adopted by his grandmother, and that's what his grandmother did, so that's all he knows. He also has to take care of his grandmother, so I mean, he has to make that money somehow. What I don't get is why Rue to him is family, because he constantly keeps repeating, she family, she family. Why is she family? The only thing I see from them is that she comes by and buys drugs, and then she comes by begging for drugs, and then she gets violent as a means of getting drugs from him, and blatantly completely ignores him all the time when he says, I'm not fucking playing with you, I'm not fucking playing with you. So the entire time watching, I never really understood why she's family. Let me know in the comment section if there's like a specific scene like where it's stated or something, because I guess it went over my head because I didn't see it the entire show. But moving on. Then you got Cassie, who's the blonde-headed bimbo, and I'm not saying that blondes are bimbos. I'm saying Cassie specifically is a blonde-headed bimbo who has sex with everybody and then calls it love. And then you got her boyfriend, Chris McKay, I believe his name is, who's a fucking simp, I mean, he knows exactly what Cassie's like. He's seen pictures, he's seen videos, and he's like, oh, well, Cassie's a good person. Like, don't talk about her that way. You don't know her. Like, man, get the fuck out of here, man. You're a fucking simp. But that aside, he's a pretty cool guy. He has a plan for college, and after college, the only problem is that he's not the only talented football player in college, so making the pros is like slim to none. He also has this like scene where, I mean, it's very confusing the way they filmed it, and I had to look up like what happened to Chris McKay, because like that scene was very confusing, where he's having sex with Cassie, and then out of nowhere a bunch of guys in masks and underwear come in, pin him down on the floor, and it's not clear if he was raped or something else happened to him, if it's just simply that it was humiliating to have a bunch of guys pin you down in front of your girlfriend. I don't really know what happened. It was very confusing. confusing, but clearly it affected him. And if nothing else, I could understand why that's extremely humiliating and you can't really gather yourself, you can't look at your girlfriend. I understand that completely, but it was very, very confusing the way it was filmed. So pretty likable character, but Cassie, she had like some issues with Chris McKay, and then she decides to get on a merry-go-round, and this is like one of the most disturbing scenes where she's high and she's with a guy who's not Chris, and she gives herself an orgasm in public on the merry-go-round while everyone's looking at her like, what the fuck is this girl on? What the hell is she doing? Like, that was a really weird scene.
You are literally on some sick shit.
And I honestly did not need to see that. And this girl like never learns anything. She keeps consistently making the same mistake, even going as far as sleeping with her best friend's ex-boyfriend, as she consistently keeps reiterating they're not together, whatever. And like Nate said, that's bringing comfort to nobody but you.
Get that hoe under control.
This girl does not learn anything from her mistakes. She knows she's in the wrong. She knows she's doing something because she always looks guilty. She's always hiding from her best friend. She's always crying about it. Like, she's stupid. So all these characters are very uninteresting, and they're just the same old bullshit, just recycled anti-teenage drama bullshit over and over again. And all you really get from them in terms of depth is the cliff notes you get at the beginning of an episode that was specifically focused on that character. Now, the acting for these characters is very, very cringy. Zendaya, people think she's a great actress. I'm still not convinced. I'm not going to say she did a bad job in season 1, but she didn't do a convincing job. I'll say that. I'm not going to disrespect her by saying she's a bad actress, but she didn't do a convincing job. Now in season 2, she gave the best performance I've ever seen, and I think it was episode 5 where she was having an intervention. I think that's the best episode in this entire show, and that was the best performance. But other than that, all the performances are a little bit cringy. Even the guy that plays Fesco, like, even though he's like the most real character for me, it kind of still feels cringy at times. There were also times in the show where I felt like there were gaps in the plot, or at least in the writing, where they'll say something and then they'll bring it up later, but they'll have all this other like filler information that they present as if you're supposed to know it already, but you don't, and it was never explained, such as Cassie breaking up with Chris McKay, or like vice versa, whatever. But I don't recall them officially breaking up on screen at all. It just kind of went on as if they were broken up already. So the writing in the show has a bunch of issues, and because of that, you don't really get to have like these really compelling story arcs, and it keeps wasting time with like these fourth wall moments, like Rue trying to explain like dick pics and nudes and selfies and all this crap, this Gen Z bullshit. But it also has like music video style moments where they're kind of cutting back between characters, and you have Rue and Jules kind of just looking at each other when the lights changing. It literally looks like a music video. And to top it all off, the last 2 episodes of season 2 were extremely boring, a complete waste of time in my opinion, the way it was set up to be a play by Lexi about all the characters in the show, which, I mean, it gave a few bits of information that you may not have known before, but other than that, it's recycled crap that you've already seen. But anyway, I'm gonna wrap this up because I'm already over 10 minutes. But yeah, this show was fucking trash. This show was horrible. It's about over-sexualized teenagers. I mean, if it took place in college, and college makes more sense because that's when like kids get freedom from their parents. They go to another state, or they might be across the street, or they might go to another state to go to college, like whatever it is. But now they have freedom, they're adults, and now they're expressing their freedom by doing whatever the fuck they want, be it having lots of sex, drinking, drugs, like whatever. But in high school, like, you're having a show about teenagers for adults that's just over sexualized teenagers with a lot of explicit content about teenagers, but it's catered towards adults. And that's just really, really weird to me. Now, this show is a better fit for college life, but I'm completely fine with HBO having a show about teenagers. But did they really have to be so explicit? I mean, if you're 18 years old, if you're a new adult, if you're a young adult, this might appeal to you because you're not too far off from your teenage years. But if you're 25, 30, 35, like somewhere around there, or even older, this might creep you out because you're watching a show about teenagers and it's so fucking explicit. It's over sexualized teenagers. I could keep going, but I'm gonna stop right here. This show was fucking horrible. Probably the worst show I have ever seen. But if you feel differently and you have a different perspective, let me know in the comment section how you feel about the show, what you loved about it, which characters you liked, like whatever it may be. And if you shared the same opinion, same thing, let me know what you think in the comment section. Please hit that like button. It does help me so much. Subscribe if you have not already, and I will catch you on the next video next Friday. See you then. Bye bye.